Hey guys, so I have been asked like loads about Charlie's story of how he got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and how we took him into hospital and he was diagnosed with DKA. So yeah, I kind of like this is still really, really, really raw for me. I haven't quite processed like the trauma around it, but I wanted to share it coming from that place still, although it has been a couple of months, so we're not like right in the thick of it, if that makes sense. But basically this starts from I deregistered my son from school last September because he was not coping. He has autism, ADHD with a PDA profile. He was just not coping in school, and he went for his first day in year 7 and he had the worst panic attack I've ever seen in my life. So we deregistered him, and from the period of September to December he was like a different child. Like it was like my child was coming back to me. He was like happier, calmer. We were having less meltdowns. Like he was just a much happier version of himself. Like he was reverting back to how he was like when he was much younger, like more, yeah, he was just a different child, and everyone around us noticed it. We then went on holiday for a long holiday for like, I think we were there for like 3 or 4 weeks in Mauritius where my mum lives. And when we got back, we noticed his behavior was changing again, and we couldn't pinpoint why. Like he was really irritable. We were having more meltdowns. Like he was agitated, angry. Like his personality reverted back to how he was in school. And me and Rob were just kind of like, we don't understand what's changed. And I was like, maybe he struggled with transitioning from being away for a long period of time and then coming back. But we do that every year, and he's never had a problem with that before. We were like, are we putting too many demands on him in terms of like what we're asking for him with the home education side? So I tried to remove some demands, and we were getting like his behavior was just progressively getting more angry, more irritable, more agitated. He was starting to refuse to leave the house again when we needed to go out and do things. He was really really complaining of being tired all the time as well. So we have irritability, like excessive tiredness. He was just always tired. And then what was the next? So his mood had changed. He was really tired all the time. The next thing that I kind of noticed, like he was always quite a big drinker, like has always drunk like really well and quite a lot. But we bought him a new water bottle, and I swear to God, it's like this water bottle has saved his life, or a main reason to saving his life. So we bought him a new water bottle, and it was a 1 litre water bottle, and it was in the afternoon, and I knew he'd already had 2 of his other water bottles. I don't know how much mils it was, but he'd already had quite a lot to drink at this point during the day. And he got his new water bottle and he smashed back 1 litre within like an hour. And then he came back downstairs and he was just like, I need another drink. And both me and Rob looked at each other and was like, mate, you've drunk quite a lot today. And like the red flag started going off in terms of like, that's not right. And Rob was just like, right, we just need to keep an eye on it. And then I was thinking, like, we'd been like on home ed days out, and he was getting through fluids quite a lot. You know when something like happens and then you're just like, actually, I have been noticing it. Like he has a 2-hour coding lesson, and he had a massive drink beforehand, 2 hours where he didn't have a drink, but he just sat down, he wasn't doing anything. And then he came out and he was like, when they say increased thirst, like it was just like I was trying to kill him by not providing him fluid. That's the only way I can think of describing it. He got so angry, so agitated, and that was progressively getting worse. So it's at this point I tried to like what's the word? I tried to limit, how much he was drinking. And I was just like, you've already drunk like 2 litres. Like it needs to be a cutoff now. He was getting so agitated, so angry, so distressed. So we made the decision that we were going to book a doctor's appointment. So we booked a GP appointment. I went in, increased thirst. I was like, he's drinking in excess of 3 litres of fluid a day. He's tired all the time. He's irritable all the time. I said, we noticed weight loss, but he's really tall. I mean, I mentioned the weight loss, but I said, but he is also a growing boy, and boys can grow upwards and then fill out a bit, which he has been known to do in the past. So I mentioned the tiredness, the thirst, the weight loss, the agitation. And I mentioned like excessive thirst rings alarm bells for diabetes. He said he wasn't overly concerned, and he said, let's just request a blood test appointment, just like a routine blood test appointment. At that point, he could have dipsticked Charlie's urine, and then we would have saved ourselves a week. But I will come back to that. So I went away, I booked him his blood test, and in our area, they have changed it so that over 12-year-olds... over 12-year-olds have to now be seen by the adult phlebotomy team. So I booked the appointment, and I wasn't particularly happy because of Charlie's SEND needs. There was no way an adult phlebotomy clinic was going to be able to deal with him. Like a pediatric, the last time I went to the pediatric ward for the blood tests, they really could not, like, they struggled. They didn't know how to deal with a highly autistic, SEND needs child. So I was really concerned about this already. Fast forward to the weekend, Charlie has a sleepover where his friend comes round and brings loads of sweets, which would normally be fine, and we wouldn't normally have an issue with that. But on the Saturday night, overnight, Charlie was sick. His friend went home in the morning, and it was Mother's Day, and he stopped being sick by this point, and he was just tired. And we had plans to go to Brighton, and he said he still wanted to go. So we went to Brighton, and whilst we were there, he semi-collapsed. And when I say semi-collapsed, like, he fell to the floor, and he can be quite dramatic. I'm going to be really honest. He can be quite dramatic. With his SEND, like, because of his SEND needs, there's always something wrong. So we came back home, and we were just like, right, let's just rest, etc., etc. Oh, also to mention, before I forget, my ADHD brain, Charlie had some blurry vision as well for a couple of weeks leading up to this. Again, I just thought he was anxious, agitated. His SEND needs make it really, really difficult to decipher when there's something wrong and when there's not. Over the years, it's been like this massive trying to decipher with him. Is there a problem, or are you hungry? Because his go-to for everything is, I don't feel well. Do you not feel well? Are you just thirsty? I'm just thirsty. Do you not feel well? Are you just hungry? I'm just hungry. So it's really difficult because his go-to default is a tummy ache, or it's always physical. He experiences his emotions very physically through his body. Anyway, we came home, and I started saying to Rob, I really feel like something's not right. And he was just like, well, let's just see how he is. So on the Monday, we had a sick day together, and I rang Rob, and I was just like, the mummy intuition was really kicking in, and I was like, something feels really, really wrong. And Rob was just like, yeah, I'm getting a bit worried as well. And I was lying in bed with Charlie. Clinically, he was okay. Like, he was talking, he was still moving around and functioning, but he wasn't well within himself. Like, we had to leave Home Ed Club early that day because he really wasn't feeling very well. But it wasn't like at that point, it wasn't like I I need to rush him to A. Does that make sense? You know, when your child's like poorly, but not poorly enough to take them somewhere. We were kind of there, but like both of our intuition at that point was just like something's really wrong. And I was lying, like I brought Charlie into bed with me because my husband works away sometimes. And we were co-sleeping, and I was just lying with him, looking at him. And I was scrolling through my pictures, and I'm going to share the pictures. So I was scrolling through my pictures, and I found a picture of Charlie at the beginning of March. And then I found a picture of Charlie a couple of weeks later. And putting the two pictures side by side, in fact, I'm going to put them in these pictures. I sent them to Rob, and I was just like, at that point, my alarm bells were like, something is wrong, like really wrong. And I sent them to my husband, and he rang me, and he was just like, if he's still like this tomorrow morning, I agree, we'll take him to A&E. So the next morning we woke up, he was still very much the same. I rang Rob, and he was just like, I'm coming home. And we took him to A&E. And as soon as we got to A&E, they dipped his urine, and it came back off the charts glucose, off the charts ketones. And at this point, they knew something was like seriously wrong. This is where it gets a bit hazy for me, because I don't really remember anyone specifically saying, like, mentioning diabetic ketoacidosis, like DKA. I just remember they took him through. They were like, we're going to find a quiet place for him, because he was really agitated, really distressed. So they're like, we're going to find a quiet place for him. So we got taken round, and then the doctor came in and was just like, he's really poorly. We need to get a cannula in him. Like, we need to get blood tests done ASAP. And Charlie was not letting anyone near him. Like, anyone near him. He was so anxious, so agitated. He does not do well in clinical settings. Whenever he has blood tests, they're really traumatic. Like, really traumatic. They can never get blood from him. They can never, they can just never do it. And he has to get poked and prodded so many times, and it's really painful, and it's really traumatic. And he was just like, absolutely not. But obviously at this point, the doctor's like, he's really, really poorly. Like, we really, really need to get bloods from him, and we need to get a cannula in him so we can start pushing meds. It took like 2 hours for Charlie to finally cooperate and actually get one cannula in him. I don't know why, I don't know why they didn't give him a sedative or something at that point. It was horrifically traumatic. Like, people kept on coming in and talking to me, because Rob was calming Charlie down. So one of us came out, one of us stayed in, and they're like, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. He's really poorly. We need the blood test results. He's really poorly. We need to start pushing meds like now. And it took like 2 hours. And we got the first cannula in. I don't know what they did the blood test. They started pushing. They obviously got the blood. Like, I don't remember anyone specifically saying he's in DKA at this point. Like, no one was really explaining like what they were suspecting, what being in DKA. And then they were just like, I think they were just like, the diabetes consultant is going to come and talk to you. And like, no one, when like, I think police are trained that if someone dies, they need to say, I'm really sorry. And they need to explicitly say like what the situation is, because your brain is in like a really non-receptive state. I was not really retaining anything other than he's really, really poorly. He's really, really poorly. But the diabetic consultant came down and basically said, look, he's in what we call DKA. We need to get a second cannula in, because we have to be pushing meds through both hands. Like, he's really, really poorly. And I just remember thinking, like, it's just taken 2 hours to get one in. Like, I just remember as well, like, thinking, is this my fault? Like, what have I done? Like, he has the worst diet ever because he's so autistic. Like, it's literally carbs, carbs, carbs. And I just remember thinking, like, what have I, like, this is my fault. And, like, no one really explaining what was going on. And I just remember saying, like, is he going to be okay? Like, just needing to know that he was going to be okay. And not really, like, yeah, just not really understanding what was going on. And, like, blaming myself. Because no one at this point had said, like, we suspect type 1. I just remember, like, walking out of the ward, just needing a breath of fresh air. I was just, like, sliding down the ward, just crying, just feeling like, what have I done? This is all my fault. Because when you have a child with SEND needs, like... Anyway, we managed to get the second cannula in with the bribery that he'd be able to get out of A&E and go up to the ward. And I have to say, like, they were amazing. They normally only let one parent stay, but because of how agitated and anxious, and it was taking both me and Rob to, like, calm him down enough, they spoke to the ward manager and they really kindly agreed that we could both stay with him. And we did both stay with him for the 4 days we were in. We got taken up to the ward, and overnight, like, they were just constantly testing him just to make sure, because they needed to get the balancing act of, I think they were pushing glucose, and then stopping, like, they had to get the balancing act of, like, the medicine they were pushing in him. They needed another line for the insulin that they were pushing in him. And I just remember, like, when we got up to the ward and they came to do, like, his first long-lasting injection. Again, I just didn't really understand at that point what was going on. We were just told that he needed it. And, just he wasn't coping. And being finger-pricked all the time. It was honestly probably one of the worst nights of my life. And we got no sleep. Like, literally, we had 1 hour sleep. Like, that was it, because we just couldn't sleep. And then just, like, they had to monitor him all night, on and off. And I just remember in the morning, they were like, the diabetic nurse is going to come and talk to you. And I was just like, well, what is going on? Like, I didn't know anything about diabetes. Like, I knew there was type 2, and then I knew that there was kind of like the bad one, if that makes sense. And I just remember she came in first thing in the morning, and I was just like, can you just, like, I need to, like, can you explain, like, is it type 1 that you're taught, like, what is, and she was just like, I just remember saying, yeah, I think they were waiting for the tests to confirm, and she was like, yeah, we're looking at type 1 diabetes. And then that whole day was like a crash course on type 1 diabetes and, like, the basics of keeping your child alive on 1 hour's sleep. She was like, the team were amazing. And, like, just watching your son, like, I think it's hard for any parent, but because Charlie's SEND needs just made it so much harder, and the team were amazing. Like, she said, we're going to completely take this at child, like, there are things that we need to get done today, but obviously I'm gonna, like, I'm taking into consideration like Charlie's autism and PDA, and she was just amazing. And the way she approached him, and she built a bond with him. We got the Libra in that morning straight away. And we just got the things that we needed to get done. The injections were rough. And he was just like, yeah, the injections were absolutely rough. And then we were in for the next 3 days, being taught how to give injections. Carb counting for me, because I've calorie counted in the past, wasn't a massive thing to get my head around. It was for my husband. But yeah, we were given our crash course of how to keep your child alive with type 1 diabetes, really. But yeah. Oh, sorry. So going back to how he was diagnosed, it was the agitation, like the mood swings, like irritability. That was a massive, like, red flag going off for quite a while. The tiredness, like he was always tired. The excessive thirst, the rapid weight loss, the blurry vision as well, on and off. And again, it was just massive mummy intuition of knowing, like, and daddy intuition, that's not fair on Rob, but the intuition of us just knowing something was wrong. Also, the weirdest part for me in all of this was, I'm a very spiritual, intuitive person, and since January, I think it was January, I can't remember, for ages, I literally intuitively just kept on hearing the word diabetes, to the point where I got myself tested for being diabetic. Like, it was literally just in my ear 24/7, diabetes. And it was obviously like my intuition knowing what was wrong, but just thinking I was a head case and that I was just really anxious. Because my grandma died last year, and she had type 2, and towards the end, she just didn't care, and she was eating what she wanted to do. So I kind of borderline convinced myself that I was just being like health anxiety around that, when it turns out that my intuition was literally trying to tell me that there was something wrong with Charlie. Like, that was the biggest, like, when he got diagnosed and I came back around, when he calmed down a bit, I said to Rob, I was just like, literally for months, all I've been hearing, like, intuitively, is diabetes. That was literally mental. Like, it just goes to show that we're literally given information, like, I was literally being told. And I just thought it was about myself. I didn't even, like, think, because I didn't know the signs. So I think the 4 silent killers of DKA and undiagnosed type 1, tiredness, thirst. They're the 4 T's, but I can't remember. Tiredness, thirst, it is mood, and rap is weight loss. I'm going to put the 4 things here and on the front cover, because they literally, like, too many people die from, like, these basic things and then seeking help. So yeah, that's the story of how, like, the reasons why we went into hospital and how Charlie got diagnosed with DKA and type 1 diabetes.